The NASCAR Cup Series continues to prove itself week in and week out with the new next-gen car, but what does this mean for the rest of NASCAR? What is up, everybody? My name is Jack Quinn. Welcome back to the channel. Now, this is a bit of an entirely different type of video compared to normal. This is kind of the start of what I want to do for the channel, especially this year in 2024. I want to bring a whole lot more different content to the channel. This weekend, I will actually be going to the Craftsman Truck Series race at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'll be bringing Melissa along with me. I'm going to try and go to the Xfinity Series race as well, but not 100% certain on that, and definitely not certain on going to the Cup Series race. But speaking of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, I just got these two cutouts in the mail today, one of which is Kyle Larson from the South Point 400 last year, and Riley Herbst, who got his first career win in the NASCAR Xfinity Series as last year as well in the fall. So those are two things that I got in the mail today. Thank you, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, for sending me those. My buddy Jake also got them. He's all the way up over in Ohio. He got them as well. So again, thank you, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, for doing this for the fans and sending them out just ahead of the Pennzoil 400 weekend. Now, topic of discussion. Just this past weekend, the NASCAR Cup Series and the Xfinity and Truck Series were at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Ambetter Health 400 weekend, in which we saw arguably one of the best next-gen races we've seen in the last 2.5 years now, as this is now its third year of existence for the next-gen. It was a three-way finish at the line with race winner Daniel Suarez edging out Ryan Blaney by 3 1,000ths of a second, and the top three were only separated by 7 1,000ths of a second, which is probably the closest finish amongst the top three in NASCAR history, and this finish put it third all-time and the closest finish in Cup Series history. The other two being Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven's finish in the 2003 race at Darlington, where that one was determined by 2 1,000ths of a second, and the 2011 Talladega race, where Jimmy Johnson edged out Clint Bowyer by a margin of also 2 1,000ths of a second. But if you look at the race weekend at Atlanta, the Cup Series was by far the best race we'd seen that weekend. You look at the Trucks and Xfinity Series, and in my opinion, they were very lackluster in those two series combined. You look at the previous week at Daytona, the Truck Series was quite an embarrassment for the Truck Series. 12 cautions, a record-setting number for the Truck Series at Daytona. Yes, it was a Friday night. Yes, it was ran late. Yes, it was followed up by another embarrassment of a race with the ARCA Series that was moved from Saturday morning to Friday night after the conclusion of the truck race. We saw Nick Sanchez win the truck race in Daytona, and we also saw a horrific crash with Taylor Gray going up in the air and flipping down the back straightaway. Thankfully, he is okay, and he raced this weekend at Atlanta. But comparing that race, which was an utter embarrassment for the Truck Series, to this past weekend at Atlanta, it's the same style of racing. It's a super speedway package, and it just didn't produce. It was very boring. Yes, you had some 2-wide, some 3-wide action going on, but they couldn't really get the bottom going. They couldn't roll the bottom at all. And then you fast forward to the Xfinity race, and it was fairly green for the most part. You had your stage cautions, and then I think you had like 1 or 2 cautions for incident. But other than that, it was single file, saving gas, follow the leader. And with what the Xfinity Series put on at Daytona, I would say Daytona was a better product of super speedway racing for the Xfinity Series than what Atlanta was able to give us. you look at the two races, and yes, it's two different style of tracks. One's technically a mile and a half with a quad oval, and the other one is a 2.5 mile super speedway. Atlanta has been reconfigured to this new super speedway look since 2022. That was the first weekend that they ran the super speedway packages on Atlanta. And so far, the only series that has really been able to stand out and give us the best product on the new Atlanta surface has been the Cup Series. And that doesn't really bode well for the Xfinity and Truck Series. And there was a thing that I saw on Twitter, I can't remember from who it was from, but it stated that the trucks and Xfinity aren't using the full super speedway package for those tracks. They're only using the super speedway engines. They're not using the aerodynamic package or the horsepower. They're just using the super speedway engines. Which, if that's the case, that's a rather big problem for Xfinity and for trucks, as they're not able to get the momentum going because you can't really push the guy in front to get momentum going. And especially with how they've got the Xfinity Series and Truck Series rules for super speedways, with them not being able to lock bumpers, it's especially more difficult to try and get momentum going. And we saw that in the Xfinity race. Drivers weren't really able to get the bottom rolling. And a lot of drivers even commented saying that this isn't really racing. This isn't what we want. AJ Allmendinger was very outspoken with it. Parker Kligerman as well was outspoken against it. Now, in the Xfinity race, yeah, we saw Jesse Love lead 90% of the race. But again, it was single file the entire time, which meant fuel saving. And we saw this in the 500. And if you're a new fan to NASCAR and you tune in and you don't know all the strategies and whatnot in the 500, you would see, oh, they're racing 2-3 wide. This is pretty awesome. But if you're an experienced fan, or if you're the drivers in this situation, it is not racing, because in the Daytona 500, you saw the field rolling at 50% throttle pretty much the entire way of the third stage until the end, when Byron and Bowman got together, creating that big accident with 10 laps to go. Hamlin spoke out and said, this isn't what we need. You know, he was marred back in traffic, so he couldn't really go if he wanted to because he was stuck in traffic. And with this new style of racing, that's the kind of problem that we're seeing a lot now. We saw it a little bit last year, but it's becoming more and more of an issue this year, and we saw it in the Xfinity Series. Jesse Love was able to lead a lot of the race, and a late race caution came out with 3 to go, and a lot of the field had to deal with fuel saving under caution. Unfortunately, Jesse Love ran out of fuel once the race restarted, which ended up handing the win to Austin Hill. Shane Van Gisbergen finished in the top 3, which, notable finish for him, good race for him in his second start in the Xfinity Series. But Jesse Love should have won that race, in my opinion. But it shouldn't have come down to fuel mileage and fuel strategy. And that's ultimately the fate that NASCAR is kind of facing right now. And it's not a good look, in my opinion. Now, obviously, for some of the newer fans, you might only be interested in the Cup Series. But for the last couple of years, the Xfinity Series has been the one that has put on the best show in any of the 3 NASCAR series. So it's kind of a shame to see that the Xfinity Series really put on one of the most boring races we've seen in a long time. Hopefully that changes next time they go to Atlanta and when they go to Daytona and Talladega for the races upcoming. And hopefully the mile-and-a-half program for the Xfinity Series is really good this year to kind of make up from this race this past weekend. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, I will see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already. Give this video a thumbs up, share it around, click that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload again. And as always, I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.